Hey guys, hope all you guys are having a great week so far. By the way, happy Hoop Day / Wednesday Eve, guys. I feel like some of you are going to see this episode on Hoop Day and Wednesday. So if you guys are watching this episode on Wednesday on Hoop Day, then happy Wednesday and happy Hoop Day, and happy Friday Eve. That's only if you're watching this episode tomorrow. But we got a lot to talk about, guys. Throughout the month on the channel, we have been talking about Autism Awareness / Acceptance Month. I've been giving you guys some little fun facts about that. And now the fun facts end right now, because now and throughout the remaining of the month, I'm going to talk about my story, my experience, life experience. And then next week, we are going to announce what we will be talking about in the month of May. But before I get into the beginning of my story, guys, make sure that if you enjoy this episode, you hit that thumbs up and that like down below, and make sure you subscribe down below if you have not done so already. And before I go into my story, guys, everybody who has autism and lives with it is different. Okay, my story is not the same as somebody else's, and I want you guys to fully understand that. But sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 1 of my story. All right, guys. So first and foremost, guys, the number one question I get asked to talk about and starting off my story about autism is, when was I diagnosed with autism? You know, man, I was diagnosed before I even hit kindergarten with autism. I was delayed in a lot of things. I did not take my first step until I was past 3 years old. I did not say my very first word until I was nearly 4. I had a very tough time in daycare making friends. I had a really tough time in school making friends. And, you know, I also got severely bullied at school, and all that. And I was, you know, throughout my life, I'd always been told by my family that, you know, it's not wrong to step up to the bully, you know. But I was afraid, you know. I was afraid. And the very first time I got told that I do not belong here was first grade. I was a first grader when I first got told that I do not belong here. And I was told I don't belong here by a third grader. I went home that day, and I went home crying like any first grader who would get told that would. And all that. But I woke up the next day, and I went to school with a happy smile on my face, you know, because growing up, I loved school. I was addicted to going to school. I didn't want to just go to school to be on the playground. I wanted to be in class. I was someone that loved going and being in school. All my elementary teachers said I was the best student in the class. I never ever got in trouble. I did everything by the book. And I was willing to help out other students. I was willing to go up to a student, a classmate of mine. I was willing to give them a hug if they were having a bad day. I was willing to tell them that, I would be their friend, even if I didn't have a friend. I would be the one that would thank my teacher for everything they did for me. And I never imagined, early in elementary school, I never imagined how many times I would hear the words that I don't belong. I never imagined how many times throughout the rest of my life to this day I would hear that. I'm not lying when I say this. After the second grade, I had been told I did not belong here over 200 times. And I still have the notebooks of who told me it on what day. I finally had an idea that I was going to take a notebook to school. And whoever told me I didn't belong, I was going to write their name and I was going to write the time. And I had one of my teachers my third grade teacher was Miss Anderson, and to this day, I'm very close with her. She was the first teacher I had that did something when I was told I did not belong. She was the first teacher that literally stood up for me for being told that. And I want to talk about, me in school. I struggled so hard with schoolwork. The very first time I learned multiplication was in 8th grade. I was that far behind. But the one thing my teachers loved is I did not give up. I refused to be told I got a D or an F. When I was getting D's, I had a teacher that said, "You get a lot of D's, Ryan, but you're the first student I've ever had that is getting D's, and yet I see how hard you try." And my teacher, she pulled me aside and she said, "The only thing that matters is how hard you're working for it. You may have gotten a D, but the amount of work you put in to study and you believed in yourself." And she's like, one of these days, you're going to get an A on all this. One of these days, you will learn multiplication, and I give you my word on that. I was so afraid, leaving elementary school. I was so afraid to go to middle school. I did not want to go to middle school at all. And it wasn't how bad bullying got. It wasn't any of that. My elementary life was very, very unique. I didn't cause trouble. And even if I saw someone being a bully, I would go up to them and maybe tell them that that's not cool. But I would also want to know if they're getting bullied. I was the one kid that many of my classmates say was lucky to call a classmate. The first time I got told by one of my classmates that I matter was 5th grade. I went 5 years in elementary school, counting kindergarten, with not being told I matter by a classmate. I never got told that. And in 5th grade, one of my classmates, Kyla Ho, and to this day I'm so close with her, she pulled me aside and she said, "I don't want you to feel like you don't matter. I want you to know that I am honored, I am happy to not just have you as a classmate in our final year of elementary school, but I am happy and I am honored that I get to come into school every day, 5 days a week, and I get to sit next to you in class, and I get to look at you every day of class and imagine. That was the first time a classmate ever said that to me. So I get asked a lot, how in the world did I get through 5 years of elementary school before 5th grade, counting kindergarten, when being told that I'm the odd one out or I don't matter. I got used to being told I don't matter. You know, my psychologist today was my psychologist when I was in elementary school, and he asked, and he finally told my mom in front of me, I don't know how your kid's doing it. I don't know how your son could be told so many times he doesn't matter and not get shooken by it. And my mom said the weirdest thing. My mom said he's used to being told he doesn't matter, so it doesn't bother him that much. And in 5th grade, I got told by a classmate I mattered for the first time in my life. First time, you know, I have my yearbook from 5th grade, and when Kyla signed it, she said, "You are going to go far in life." I don't know what it's going to be, Ryan, but you're going to make something of yourself. And she's like, and that was in 5th grade. She's like, I just have a feeling that you're going to make something of yourself, and you're going to go far in life, and everybody that comes across you is going to be blessed by it. So, you know, and I was fortunate to go to the same middle school as Kyla and have many classes with her. And I finally got a cell phone in 7th grade, and I got Kyla's phone number, and we texted, and the one thing Kyla told me is, she's like, I finally sat down with her at lunch in 7th grade, and I told her for the very first time that I was autistic. I hid that for years from her. I said I was afraid to tell you that because you would not want anything to do with me. And she looked back at me and she's like, I knew you were autistic, Ryan, because I have an older brother that's autistic. So I knew the signs. I saw the symptoms. And Kyla told me in 7th grade, she's like, I give you my word. I give you my word, Ryan, that I will always be there for you. I'll be there on your best day. I'll be there on your worst day. No matter if we're going to the same school or we're not, I will always be there for you. And, you know, just being told that I have autism, I was afraid. I was afraid my whole life to even have people find that out. And I'm so lucky to have amazing teachers who believed in me, who gave me extra part of their time so I would get everything I needed to get done. I'm so thankful to have teachers that believed in me from day one and they never gave up on me. I'm so blessed, and I don't take that for granted at all, because I don't take anything for granted anymore. You know, I got bullied. I got bullied a lot in elementary school. I got bullied a lot in middle school, and I got bullied 18 times more in high school. But it was that one person, Kyla, that really, that wasn't a staff. She was the first classmate I ever had to tell me that she enjoyed being around me. I was not the odd one out. And every time I talk about it, I cry because of how much I went through. And I was not given traumatic stuff, guys. I was bullied in elementary school, but I was never bullied. I thought the bullying I got in elementary school was worse. And unfortunately, that was nothing compared to the bullying I got in middle and high school. But, I've been told by a lot of people that I have autism. And then I get told by a lot of people that, I've had people that have not understood me. And they've always wanted to know why I do things a certain way, or why I say things a certain way. And those people have never judged me. But I'm sorry for getting emotional, guys, but being told, the first time I ever had a friend that did not have a disability, no autism, was 5th grade. 5th grade, Kyla Ho was her name. And to this day, I'm close with her. I got to be at her wedding. Think about that. A few years ago, I got to be invited to her wedding, and I got to see her do something, and I was so proud of her. And I remember going up to her husband and meeting him, and I sat down with him, and I'm like, you have no idea how special of a wife you are going to have. You have no idea. And her husband, Matt, looked at me and he's like, I know exactly who you are, Ryan. I know exactly who you are, and we've never met prior to right now, and I know exactly who you are because of all the photos she shared with me. And Matt told me, he's like, Ryan, Kyla does not think of you as a friend. She thinks of you as a brother. And I was shocked by that. Her own husband on the wedding day told me that. And I spoke to Kyla about it a couple weeks later, and Kyla told me, yeah. She's like, we the first time we were classmates with 5th grade, but she's like, I consider you my a little brother, Ryan, because of everything we've been through together. She's like, if I could talk about her all day, I would, guys. But I want to end this episode by saying I am proud of who I am. I am proud of everything I've had to overcome. And if you think that this story time was me going through hell, you have no idea. The stories I have for the rest of the month about my life with autism, man, you think this was bad for me? You have no idea how bad it got later on. And I will share that with you. I'm going to try not to cry in the next episode. But guys, I hope you guys enjoyed my first story time of autism. I'm sorry that I got emotional. But I wanted to say to Kyla, if you're watching this episode, Kyla, thank you. Thank you so much for everything. You know, I know I'm a YouTuber and I love what I do. But Kyla, from the bottom of my heart, I love you and I thank you so much. And I don't know what I would be doing or where I would be if I did not have you in my life, and I sincerely mean that. So, guys, what I'm talking about, Kyla, it shows a small act of kindness can go a long way, and all that. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Tomorrow's episode, I will talk about my junior high, middle school life, and we will move on. I'm sorry I got emotional, but that was it. Every time I talk to someone about it, I get emotional. So I love you guys. Remember, it is okay to be different, guys, and please do not judge anybody. And I'll see you all tomorrow in our next episode of my story time.